Welcome into another season of Pete's Pigskin Preview here on MPW Digital. I've lost track of how many seasons this is. I want to say 4. If it's more than that, less than that, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's another season of Pete's Pigskin Preview on MPW Digital. If you are new to this show because you are a 24/7 sports subscriber, first, thank you. We've had a record summer. Thank you for being part of it. If you weren't aware of MPW Digital, and based on some numbers, you weren't, welcome in. This is a show that is one of our most popular, maybe our single most popular offering in football season. The only thing that compares to it from a number standpoint is the MPW Digital postgame show, which is which Chase Parham hosts and is basically guided by whether Ole Miss wins or loses, which is completely out of our control. Just in case you don't know that, I want to issue that caveat again. We don't control it. If we did, they would win. So when they win, give us credit. When they lose, remember, we didn't do it. Pete's very popular, though. He does a great job each and every week. What we do is typically focus on Ole Miss's opponent. Tonight, we're going to focus on Ole Miss's quarterback, Austin Simmons. Ole Miss is a 38.5-point favorite against Georgia State, Saturday night, 6:45, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. We will talk about the Panthers a little bit, and we'll talk some big picture stuff in a minute. But the big thing that I wanted to say before I toss it over to Pete, 2 things. One, this year we're brought to you by RiverLand Roofing. They hosted this show a couple of years ago. They're back. I'm going to tell you about RiverLand in just a minute. Super excited to have them back at MPW Digital. And 2, I will put this show in podcast form because there are some people, I don't really understand it, who like to listen to it rather than watch it. That said, if you're listening to this and you're unfamiliar with MPW Digital YouTube, you need to watch this. You will get more out of it. You will enjoy it more, and you will learn more if you watch it as opposed to listening to it. Pete's very good at explaining it, but often he's explaining something that's on the screen, and if you can see it, you'll understand what he's saying better. And over the years, we've gotten lots of feedback from people who have watched it as they watched the game on Saturday unfold with, oh, that's exactly what he said was going to happen. And they were looking for those things. I don't know that you can hear those things. You are better off watching those things. So if you're listening to this, it's MPW Digital on YouTube. Go hit the subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you a cent. Watch it. I think you will. You'll thoroughly enjoy this. We typically air this on Thursday afternoons, so it's pretty consistent. You'll know where to find it. Thursday afternoons, usually around 3:30 Central. It will air on YouTube. So with all of that said, Pete, good to hear from you. Good to see you. How are you?
It is good to be back. I always look forward to doing this and a new season with a lot of new stories to be written. You know, I feel like last year we went into it and we knew so much about the Ole Miss roster, and we knew what the hype was, and we knew what the goal was. And this year is going to be really different. And, you know, I'm excited to see how that translates to the style of ball that Ole Miss plays, and where they put their players in a position and how they try to do things. And I'm excited to be able to bring that to you. And, you know, thanks to MPW Digital and RiverLand Roofing, we're going to do that every week and hopefully give everybody a show worth watching and or listening to.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to get to the show here in 1 second. I do want to tell you about RiverLand Roofing. I've had a personal experience with RiverLand Roofing this summer. We had, like most people in the South, we had a weird weather summer, as we always do. And we had a couple of instances in Oxford, at least in the part of Oxford I live in, the northern part of Oxford. There was some real hail. And one day I went outside and watched the hail for about 6 minutes. And it just bombarded our house. And I wasn't really thinking about the roof, but shortly thereafter, we had kind of a leak inside the house. And we called our insurance people, and they sent RiverLand out with the drone. And me being the maturation level of about a 13-year-old, I saw drone, and I went outside to watch the drone fly over my house. And I talked to the people at RiverLand, and sure enough, they came back with the pictures, and they said, you have roof damage. We did all of the claim stuff, and it was in the midst of a time of the year that our foreign exchange student was getting ready to head back to Finland, and we had a trip planned to the beach, and it was right around the 4th of July. There was a lot going on, and the people at RiverLand could not have been more accommodating of our schedule, picking out roof colors, all that stuff, when to do it. And then they came out one day, and if you were listening on MPW Digital that morning, you heard it. It was organized chaos. But the key thing was organized. We have a pretty big house out here in Oxford, and they turned this around in a little over a day. They did phenomenal work, covered up our pool area. We were worried about nails and such getting in the pool, obviously, because that wouldn't be a good thing. They covered that up. My wife, Laura, is a big plant person. She loves landscaping and her plants and things of that nature. They went the extra mile to cover that up to make sure that the things that mattered to her were protected, and did a phenomenal job on the roof, communicated with us the entire time. They did incredible work. We're super excited about how it looks, and more importantly, the roof now is protects us from water when and if it ever rains again here in North Mississippi. I think we've had a centimeter of rain since that hailstorm in the last 2.5 months, but it's coming. At some point it will rain, and when it does, we will be protected here in our house thanks to the people at RiverLand Roofing. They'll do the same thing for you. Reach out to them at riverlandroofing.com, 662-644-4297. And please, please, please do us a favor. Tell them that you heard about it on MPW Digital. You can mention Pete's Pigskin Preview. You can just mention MPW Digital. You can say Neil and Chase, whatever comes to mind that connects you to MPW Digital, Rebels 24/7, whatever. Say that you heard about it there. That would do us a big favor. And it also helps them know where to spend their advertising dollars, to be frank, because if this show doesn't produce revenue for them, they shouldn't advertise. They shouldn't sponsor it. And if it does, they should. So they need to know. So if you're in that situation where you might need a roof, you need roofing issues, you need roofing repair, whatever the case may be, get in touch. All of North Mississippi, get in touch with RiverLand. They'll take great care of you. Again, riverlandroofing.com, 662-644-4297. All right, Pete, I mentioned Ole Miss, Georgia State, 6:45 season opener for both teams on Saturday night, 6:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Vaught Hemingway Stadium. The game will be seen on the SEC network. It's the one kind of warm-up game Ole Miss gets, because after this, the season kind of gets real. They go to Kentucky next week. Arkansas comes here in 2 weeks. Tulane, a team that a lot of people think is a leading contender to be the Group of Five representative in the college football playoff, is the week after Arkansas. And then the week after Tulane, the LSU Tigers come in, a team that is getting, whether it's deserved or not, we'll find out, but a team that is getting a lot of national championship discussion in large part because of their quarterback. Did a great job in the portal. They have a very experienced roster. The point of this is not to talk about whether LSU is or is not a title contender. We'll get to that in a few weeks. But the schedule gets real fast, unlike a year ago, Pete, where Ole Miss warmed up with a really soft underbelly of a schedule. Kentucky was the first team they played, and they kind of paid for it that day. This year, it's one warm-up game against a Sun Belt team, and then boom, right into the heart of the SEC schedule. So is that a good thing or a bad thing when you have a young quarterback and you're replacing so many key players on both sides of the ball?
You know, it can go both ways. I think it really does just depend on where your roster is. I mean, if you come out of the Georgia State game feeling good about things, you probably go into week 2 feeling confident. At the same time, there's going to be a lot of guys that were on the roster last year that'll probably go into that week 2 matchup feeling like there's a little something to prove. And so it's hard. It's we're in the middle. We're in Georgia high school football right now. And for anybody new listening, that is what I do. I coach high school football here in Georgia, and we're 2 games into our season, getting ready for week 3, and we're fortunate to be 2-0. We've played 2 football teams that, quite frankly, we're better than, and we're getting ready to play one this week that that'll be a much tougher test for us. And so, we think we're a good football team, but we don't have a lot of answers because we haven't had to play 4 quarters yet. Our starters have not sniffed a fourth quarter and barely made it halfway through a third. And so Friday night, we're going to have to play 4 quarters of football, and we don't know what that's going to look like. How are our kids going to respond? And so that's always part of it. One of the things with a young quarterback, and we're going to talk a lot about Simmons tonight, but with Simmons being an inexperienced starter and with there really being a lot of new pieces in the offense in general, if you go out and execute and you play well and you get up on Georgia State, you can't afford to just park the bus and put the brakes on. You have to continue to run the offense, and you have to continue to put him in situations where he's going to be tested, because you want to get him in the fire as much as possible, while at the same time you still want to protect him, obviously. That there is nothing that you can do to replace experience, and in particular at the quarterback position. I was looking at something over the weekend that was talking about quarterbacks, being cut in the last couple of days from NFL rosters, and kind of the thing that stands out is guys that are holding, guys that are rookies, and even second and third year guys that seem to be making it. They're all guys that went out and started at least 2 years of football at the college level, if not more. Guys that may have, bid their time and then had one really good season, or kind of played spottily for 2 years kind of deal. They don't tend to have the same type of experience. And so, you go from a 3-year starter really to a kid that last year threw 32 passes, and on top of that, this is still the kid that graduated high school super early and enrolled in college as like a 16-year-old, and so
he's 19 years old.
Yeah, 19 years old he's already passed more college classes than I did probably, but he's also only thrown 32 collegiate passes, and
only a handful of those in games that were up for
I mean, you take the one drive away from the Georgia game, and he was phenomenal in that drive.
Yeah.
But you take the one drive away from him, and those others, they're not the same, So there's a real balance to having a feel for your team. I think from what I hear, from what I read, from all of the great content that comes out from you and Chase and the rest of your staff, and the practice reports and everything, I feel like they're going to trust their defense. They're deep on the defensive front. They've developed some depth on the back end if they can stay healthy at linebacker, and that's a blessing to have a coordinator that you believe in, and his new paycheck says that.
Yep.
To have the skill on that side of the ball that they think they have. And they've got weapons on offense. I mean, it's been said by numerous people, you included, that this might be the deepest wide receiver room they've ever had. I think the coaching staff has acknowledged that.
Yep.
But after Caden Lee, how many of those guys have been in this system, played in this environment, played with this quarterback? There's not much there. And so,
I mean, really the next one's Daquan Wright. And,
right.
The 1 year of tight end, and his health in week 1 is a little questionable. Luke Haas came over from Arkansas. He's going to miss at least the first month of the season, probably, maybe more. Caleb Odom is out right now. I think it's just concussion. I shouldn't say just concussion. It's concussion protocol. They've got some injuries up front, on the offensive line, at tight end. They're, like you said, Caden's been at Ole Miss for a long time, but the other guys are new. Now, some of those guys are proven, and some of those guys, man, to say that they look the part is an understatement.
Right.
Stribling from Oklahoma State, Harrison from Penn State, Traylon Ray from West Virginia, Deuce Alexander. There's dudes. I mean, they're and that's before you even get to like Caleb Cunningham, who is green and raw, but obviously incredibly talented. Mm-hmm. Where he is in the ready to play progression, I don't know. I mean, not super close right now, I don't think, but they've got guys that look the part and play the part, but it's like you're getting at. I do think chemistry and repetition and especially offensive line. You tell me if I'm wrong. You know the position a lot better than I do. That having a unit that's played together for a few minutes is nice to have, as opposed to a unit where guys don't have a lot of experience in the battle, if you will, playing together.
There's a level of communication, when you get comfortable playing next to somebody and you're communicating nonstop at every position on the field, and offensive line is no different. And you're talking about, as the defense lines up, what call you make, and as they adjust, how does it change? And that level of communication, the more, the more experienced you are, the more you've been playing with the guy next to you. Sometimes it doesn't have to be exact. It's you hear the phrase, the syllable even, and you know what's happening. And so yeah, there's certainly, continuity up front is always important. Just like it is now. I'll say this: college football rules have changed, and what they can do in the off season now with practices and even access that analysts and support staff have to those practices has changed. And I saw that firsthand some this summer when we were on campus at another SEC school at a 7-on-7 tournament. And there was a portion of the day where suddenly we didn't have access to one of the fields that we've been using all day for this 30 something, however many teams for their tournament, because their guys were about to go practice, And so, and that hadn't always been the case. So I do think that there is more opportunity in the off season now, that if guys are on campus and they're on campus early and during the spring, and if they stay on campus during the summer, which is typical these days, that there is more opportunity to build that continuity over the course of the off season. But once you get into camp, when you're dealing with injuries and you're dealing with all these different things, some of that rust can kind of settle back in, and you got to knock it off really before you operate at a high level sometimes.
All right, last thing before we get into your what you're going to show us, just defensively. You and I were talking. We're recording this on Tuesday night. Today was final cut day in the NFL. Walter Nolan's going to start on the injured reserve list, but he was going to make the Cardinals. Obviously, first round picks make teams. Princely Amonmialen's making the Panthers. Jared Ivey just made the Seattle Seahawks. He went undrafted. I'm probably leaving people off. When you replace that much frontline talent, how difficult is that for a coaching staff?
They're fortunate, I think, in how many guys they got to play last year. That was so big. And then in addition to getting those guys on the field, they were able to retain them, and so obviously the level of production from the guys that they lost is massive, but at least they're able to replace them with guys that have been in the system for the most part, been in the system and have reps behind them and underneath them. Last year they were so dominant up front. I mean, when they got into pass rush situations and they would take Pigskin and they would take Nolan and widen them out, and they could really widen, Ivy out to one side and Princely to the other side. I mean, they were so dominant in the pass rush, and they had so many games they could play. It let them play coverage. They didn't have to pressure a ton. And so the question is going to be, can they generate the same type of pass rush and production with this new group of players and not have to get into the pressures, so that they can give more to the coverage and to the back end and help the secondary. And so if they can generate similar production, and they seem like they have that type of confidence in their first unit at least.
Yeah, the first unit, man, Pete, it looks the part. Xavier Harris, Cam Franklin, William Eccles, Santarin Perkins. I mean, they've got dudes. Now those dudes backed up guys a year ago.
Right.
And I don't know that the guys that are backing up these guys are as ready as those guys were.
And that's going to be the trick, right? When you need another interior defensive lineman to give you 15 snaps, can he do it? Right. And that's where last year they were good enough to do that. And that's going to be really what I'm most curious to see, probably more than anything about the defense this year. Might just be, okay, when the interior guy needs a break and you go to that next line, and they're not going to wholesale a bunch. But when you've got maybe two guys in there on a third down, against Arkansas, are you going to be able to generate pass rush? You can be able to contain the pocket against an athletic quarterback. Like some of the things they did extremely well last year, once they get behind that first unit and they need to rely on them for crucial snaps, what's it going to look like? So that'll be an interesting thing to see how it develops.
All right, so Austin Simmons stepping in to replace, speaking of draft picks, Jackson Dart goes in the first round of the New York Giants, has had a phenomenal preseason, appears to be the leading candidate to go into the season as the backup for the Giants. Most people think he will be the starter by some point in this upcoming season as he backs up Russell Wilson to start the season, which means he's not in Oxford, which means it's Austin Simmons' turn. I think you're going to give us a little bit of a preparation on what's coming with Austin Simmons.
Yeah, everybody for good reason has a lot of hype and belief in Austin Simmons, and Lane Kiffin has produced quarterbacks. We know that. The college football world knows that, and so I wanted to try and take a kind of realistic look at Simmons, and so I went back over the course of the last week and a half or so, and I watched every snap that he played last season. He was 19 for 32, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I watched not just the 32 pass attempts, I watched every snap I could find of him on the field. And just to kind of get a grasp for who he is as a quarterback, maybe what he does well, things that I'm sure he looked and worked to improve upon in the offseason. But one of the big things for me looking at this, young quarterback backing up Dart last year was I wanted to see how the coaches handled him in game. Now, in several situations, in most situations outside of the UGA game, he's in late in the game when Ole Miss is playing with the lead. And so, what approach are they going to take? And that's something that sometimes can be a little bit telling because it'll tell you what they think about their skill set and what you think about their talent. And what you don't want to see is them bring the backup in to just hand the football off. And that's not Lane Kiffin mentality, period, But I do think that what you see with Austin Simmons and with the way that Weiss and Kiffin continued to call the offense was that they knew the future was that he was going to be the guy, and they wanted to give him a chance to operate the full offense more often than not. And so they did that, going back kind of first clip, I'm going to show a few things from Furman's. The first game we really got to see him. He played several snaps in that game. He was 7 for 16 in that game, and I guess let me say this up front. And I think you and I talked about this off the air earlier. There's a lot of reason to have high hopes for Austin Simmons and his talent. He can spin the football. The kid has a live arm. His high school tape is unreal. He made some plays. Everybody thinks about the Georgia game, and he played above his league, above his pay status, at least in that game when he got called into service on the second drive of the game. But, I do think that the coaching staff is trying to temper the expectations a little bit. They don't want to put too much on the kid because there are going to be growing pains at some point. Some of those growing pains might be relative to the offensive line play. Some of those growing pains may be concerns about running the football. And last year, they have said this week in the press conference that they weren't satisfied with how they ran the football last year. And so when you look at all of those things and then you factor in how much newness there is at wide receiver, and then you get back into the fact that, again, 32 attempts, not a lot of crucial minutes played. You can't expect this kid to come out and be perfect. And even if he comes out and looks perfect in week 1, you can't expect him to be perfect in week 2. And to some regard, he's deserving of some grace before he needs it, And I think that that's important, that no matter what the high is for him after Saturday's game and no matter what the low is for Saturday, know that that's not where he's going to be. If he is absolutely lights out on Saturday against the Georgia State team, that is going to be schematically sound, that is going to be well coached, and that has some good players on their roster. If he comes out and just absolutely lights it up, don't hold him to that the week 2 or week 3 or week 4. And at the same time, if the kid comes out and makes a mistake, it is a growing pain. And what you want to see is that by week 2, week 3, week 4, that mistake has been corrected and he's not making that mistake again. And so, in a lot of ways, I think most people would tell you, typically as a quarterback goes, the team goes. And I do think that if he is allowed to operate in a clean pocket, and he can limit mistakes, then I think there's a lot of optimism for this Ole Miss offense, because they certainly do have a lot of skill players that can do some good things. So we're going to dive in. We're going to look at some good. We're going to look at some not as good. I'm not going to tell you there was a ton of just bad in what I saw last year, but we're going to give you kind of go through what I see when I'm watching this and what I think, the coaches are thinking as all of this, kind of rolls out in front of him with him on the field. So, this is his first attempt last year. It is against Furman, a team that they were already big lead, right? But he comes in the game, and it's not let's play passive football. We're going to take a shot right now. They're able to get, Caden Lee in the slot. They isolate him on a safety, and they're going to get into a play action concept. Okay. He is going to look, and you can see when this ball snapped, his eyes are on this boundary safety. The boundary safety a lot of times is going to indicate coverage when you're a quarterback. If he fits down in the run scheme, it typically means one of two things. It is a solid too high structure to the field, which means that the space behind that safety is typically going to be unoccupied, or it means that they're going to rotate coverage and bring the field safety to the middle, which means that the front side seam is now potentially unoccupied. So you can see his eyes in this clip go to the boundary safety. The boundary safety is seeing the play action run fit. The action from the tight end coming across helps influence that safety. So he's coming down to getting the run fit. And as soon as that safety commits, okay, I can't tell you with 100% what his progression is right here, but they're going to put both outside receivers on these out routes. And Kiffin is already in his patented touchdown pose down here. He knows what's coming because as soon as that safety rotates down, he knows Caden Lee on a double move, and he's been this way since he was a sophomore in high school. He is going to leave a defensive back in his dust on a double move. He is one of the purest route runners in college football. And so Caden is going to push, and he's going to do what is called the cop route. So Caden is going to push vertical. It's called the cop because you're going to sell the corner over to the post route. So he's going to try to get this defensive back to open his hips to defend the corner, and then he's going to try to go win that leverage back. If this safety rotates to the middle of the field, Caden's going to stay skinny or stay tall and try to be over the top of him, and the quarterback's going to try to move that safety with his eyes. If the safety stays on this half of the field, we're going to open, we're going to come underneath him, still try to keep it as tall as we can in our departure, and he's going to put the ball out in front. If he doesn't like it, this rotation and the off coverage means that you're getting some type of a cover three type situation from the corners, so he can take these outside out routes or comeback routes if something pops in the middle of the field to take away that cop route. Here, boom, he sees the safety, he sees what's coming, he resets, sets his feet, and the ball is out in rhythm, and it is a perfectly placed ball for Caden. The big thing you want to see is you want to see timing on these balls as well as accuracy, okay? So when he gets the top of his drop, Caden is making his cut right now back to the post. He sees where the coverage is. You can see the defensive back is completely facing the wrong direction and is now going to have to speed turn himself back inside to get to it. There's nobody on the opposite seam, so Caden has all this room. Quarterback has room to throw him, and he doesn't waste time. The ball is out, and his flick of the wrist is absolutely natural, and it is quick. I mean, his movement is really sudden when he gets ready to unleash the football. And so that's what you want to see here. I mean, they give him a chance to make a big play. His eyes are good. His feet are good. Ball's on target, results in an explosive play on first offensive snap.
Yeah, no one's questioning arm talent, that's for sure.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
Okay. So skipping forward just a little bit more. Okay. And this is where, Ole Miss is an RPO-based offense. We operate the same way at Cambridge High School here in Georgia. If you want to play quarterback, you have to be able to operate in the RPO system. Okay, so Ole Miss in this structure is what we call an 11-piece structure. So it's one tight end, one running back. That equals out to 3 receivers. You can, in theory, if you're not running the quarterback, you can only block 6 guys. Well, the math says that the defense right here has us outnumbered. They've 6 on 6. The math is even, But the seventh defender here, as soon as he adds himself to the run fit, whether it comes from the field or the boundary, then the ball has to be spit to the outside. Okay. Now, typically two things are going to happen when you talk about throwing the ball into pressures. When they want to bring this blitz from the field, that pretty much guarantees there's going to be some type of a rotation, which means that safety is going to spin down. He's going to work to the middle of the field. Okay. You're going to get cover three. So when this happens, quarterbacks are typically taught two things. You're either going to replace the blitz with the football, so you're going to try to get behind the pressure with the ball, or you're going to work away from the rotation because there should be a soft spot there, okay? So here what you'll see as the field pressure comes and that field safety starts coming down, they have given him hitches to the front side with a 5-step glance route to the backside, okay? Here, they need him to see this safety coming down, and this ball, if it's going to be thrown front side, should really end up all the way out to the number one receiver. Or you want him to recognize the rotation, and you want the ball to come backside to your glance route. Here, the rotation comes to his face. He knows he has to throw the football. He's in the mesh. He knows he has to throw it. He sets his feet right now, okay, but he tries to throw the slot. And the safety comes down, sits right on it. Better teams, that's a pick six, right? An SEC safety might take that, go the other way with it. An SEC safety might have the guy coming off the edge be 6'4" and not 5'11", 6 foot tall.
So can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
The knock on him, kind of from people who have watched, media's gotten no access to scrimmages, but they've opened the scrimmages up to big donors and the Grove Collective people and stuff like that. And so this isn't me disparaging anybody who's reporting or telling us what they're seeing, because they might know football a hell of a lot better than I do. That wouldn't be shocking. But they've said the one thing that's a criticism of Simmons is a tendency to lock in on a target, to lock his eyes too long, to that, and obviously against SEC teams that could be problematic because you're going up against elite athletes at pretty much all 16 schools. They've got dudes that can jump routes and things like that, like you said. Is that something that you see when you watch him on film, or is that overstated?
I think one thing Kiffin and Weiss do a phenomenal job of is isolating reads for the quarterback. They do a great job of scheming things up and telling him exactly where to put his eyes, and he knows exactly where option A is and then how to quickly get to option B when he needs to. So, like, in some regard, I can't say it may not be by design sometimes in scheme, but yes, quarterbacks can stare down receivers.
Yeah.
We have a 4-star receiver committed to Georgia right now. Sometimes we have to remind our quarterbacks that just because he's who he is doesn't mean the ball has to go there, and so that absolutely can happen. But more often than not, I find that quarterbacks, it's maybe not about staring them down. It's just the timing and the progression. Maybe they don't anticipate. They hold on to it too long. So when it seems like they're staring it down, it's just like maybe they don't have that confidence to find the window and rip the ball in the window. And, again, you go back to the continuity, right, and the experience thing. Those are all things that come with continuity and experience. And so without seeing it in person, I can't tell you. There are times last year watching it. There was one in particular in this game that I was going back and forth on which clips to show, which not to show, where it wasn't that he stared the receiver down. He waited longer than he had to and didn't anticipate it and was just a little bit late, and it let a guy kind of fold in and get a shot on a guy. But I think that, again, that's part of being a young quarterback is really amping up and getting more comfortable with finding windows and anticipating where throws are going to happen and understanding what's going to happen with coverage. Now, look, he comes back, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to show it to you later. Like here, he tries to force this hitch into the field, and that's not the ball. Later, he comes back, and he takes the backside receiver, the single, and he tries to throw the glance route away from rotation, which is what a lot of quarterbacks are going to do when they recognize that pressure coming so quickly. But what you can afford if you're Ole Miss is for him to throw into the rotation coverage on a simple hitch or something that where it's truly working into coverage. This next one right here is an absolute just missile, And again, nobody questions the arm talent, and these are the reasons why. So here they are. They're checking things. He's signaling what he wants to the receivers. There's the snap. He knows. Now, look, is he staring the receiver down to the right side? It looks like it. Okay. He's reading that side of the field. He knows what's going to happen right here. Okay. Safety's tucked again. He looks like he's probably coming down. That should equal bail. Okay. This guy's not just going to fly down and let the slot run past him. He's going to be what's called a skiff player. So he's going to collision and he's going to play what's called seam curl flat. So if he gets a vertical release, he's going to try to collision it. If he were to get a threat in the flat, he's going to speed up a little bit and get to that flat. So as the rotation happens, and there comes the pressure, he is reading this safety. If the safety expands, he's going to throw this curl to the inside player. Because the safety collisions and does not expand, the ball's got to be in rhythm for this outside curl or comeback. Now, you're talking about a cross-field throw right here where he's at the 40 and he's going to rip this ball. And I am far from being a math guy, but that's a 20-yard ball in a straight line. When you start bringing Pythagorean into this, that's a long-ass throw on a rope where the safety does not have much of a chance right there. Now,
that's an NFL throw.
It is an NFL throw.
Yeah,
now,
that's what that is.
In the NFL, it needs to get out that much quicker.
Yeah.
Right?
Right,
but again,
right.
That's timing, that's experience. But
in terms of the arm talent to make that happen, that's an NFL.
It's unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. And, he probably could have worked his boundary side again, work away from the rotation right there. But that is a lot of confidence in making that throw and that throw being in rhythm right there. And so those are the things that are undeniable about the kid. And when they can really get to those things, he is going to continue to flourish. This clip I'm showing because it is an absolute staple in this Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr. offense, okay? They love variations of Y cross. If you're new to this show and you want to go back and watch past years because you're a glutton for punishment or just a football nerd, you can find probably clips over an hour of me talking about Y cross, okay? They'll package it different ways at the top, but what they like to do here is he's going to run at this corner like he's going to block him and he's going to slip vertical. He is going to push and like it is a screen and the quarterback is going to put eyes on him. Right now, the math and the depth of these two defenders tells him they're probably not going to bite on that screen so that he knows he's going to get to his backside progression. If one of them were to bite on the screen, he might try to take the vertical shot to his outside fade. On the backside, they have one of two things. If the splits are wider, then it is usually going to be the inside guy is going to be on the crossing route where he's going to climb to here, and the outside guy is either going to work a dig where he's going to look and find the window to sit down, or sometimes they will run a post. Here with this split, one thing they like to do is work what's called a switch release. So he will spray outside into the dig window, and he will come underneath and get into the cross window, okay? So what you see here is, again, he's going to turn, he's going to ride the back, his eyes are on that front side safety, nobody's coming down right there, he doesn't have a shot to work his vertical on the left, so he's immediately going to get backside in his concept. His eyes bring him back. I think he sees this middle of the field safety right here. That middle of the field safety is getting depth, but where he's really focused right now is here. Typically, when the guy's that far off, we like throwing this crossing route unless we know that the middle of the field is closed. If this guy drives, now he is going to activate his post and be over the top right there, and that is where you want that ball to go. So as he gets into his drop here, progress eyes, nothing's there front side, get to the backside safety. There he is driving the dig route. Ball goes up top for the vertical. Okay, it's a well-thrown ball. I'm not sure the receiver was expecting it. He almost runs the route here like he's not really expecting the ball, but the ball's on time. They get the penalty But the ball's not in a bad spot. It's the right read. It's where the ball needs to be. You expect your receiver to hopefully create a little bit more separation right there. And when you see the older guys, and again, this goes back to the nuance and the timing and all the different things that come into play when you're talking quarterback and receiver. If this is a Caden Lee or a Jordan Watkins last year, when he gets here and he gets into the blind spot of this DB, he's behind him, he's going to nod and lean to try and force him to turn the hips, expecting a fade ball so that he can get a better path to his post. Here, you don't really get anything at the top of the route. He just kind of takes it and, isn't able to create the same separation. So, again, the read is fine. The ball is good. He's on rhythm with it. The pocket's clean. But that's just one of those things that from a timing perspective, from an experience perspective, and being in rhythm, you want to see a little bit more. Okay. All right. So here's one. It's not the same clip that we saw earlier. Not quite the same scheme, but front side here, they've got this little screen up top, and now they bring the rotation from the boundary. The field doesn't rotate. The boundary does. Here comes this pressure. So you want him to replace the ball behind the rotation. Okay. As this safety comes down, you want to throw it right behind his ear. You want to buzz his helmet basically with the football. And you want to drive this ball inside where the corner can't make a play on the ball. Now here, he's in the mesh with the running back. His eyes are on the safety. The safety's down. Safety commits. He pulls it. He gets his feet set. Okay. If I'm a betting man, I would think that he's expecting the receiver to snap a little bit more flat than he actually does. The receiver kind of stays a little bit taller, and then the ball ends up behind him. One thing that I did see with Simmons is he did have a tendency last year on some in-breaking routes to leave the ball on the outside. There were maybe out of 32 throws, we're talking maybe 3 or 4 clips that I noticed. I'm sure that's something that he has worked on and something that they've talked and spent a lot of time on. But here, if this ball is thrown flat and pulls him inside to the hash, it's probably a reception. Instead, ball stays behind. It's an incomplete pass, and they're moving on to the next play. Okay, so this is the last one I'm going to show you in this game. Again, just we talk about the arm strength and the different things. This is very similar to what we saw earlier. They're going to get into, it's essentially a 4 verticals, right? Mike Leach would be proud. They're going to go vertical, vertical, vertical. And if he gets a 1 high rotation, if the safety spins down and they get 1 high, he's going to work probably one of these seam balls. He's going to try to steer the middle of the field safety away and take the opposite seam, okay? If they stay too high, one of these guys likely has a chance to bend it. Can't tell you exactly what their rules are. Or if he gets a bail, the field vertical is actually going to turn into a stop route, okay? Here, play develops. They end up getting to 1 high, but he's already recognized where he's going to be soft. He trusts his arm strength. And again, this is another big-time ball thrown in rhythm on the money for an easy conversion right there. Just another big-time throw and big-time in rhythm. Now, watch this one again. Is this one where you could say he stared this guy down? Potentially. But it's essentially the same read as the clip that I showed you earlier. That field safety does not get out underneath the number 1 receiver because he's got a collision the slot right there. So he is on time. And you can see this ball is moving. If I pause it, ball's moving well before the receiver. He's starting his motion now. The receiver's still vertical and has not even gotten into his break yet. And by the time the receiver gets into his break and turns around, the ball's halfway there. That's the timing that you want to see. And that is a well-placed football, move the stick. So the fact that he has the arm talent to really push that ball outside the numbers, both sides of the field as well as down the field, does unlock a lot for the Ole Miss offense if they can take advantage of all the one-on-one situations that they'll be given. Okay, going to skip forward to the Arkansas game. He did some good things late in the Arkansas game. He had a couple misses that I guarantee he would love to have back, but there were 2 clips in particular I thought I'd show you again. Ole Miss loves to take shots. They love to push the ball down the field. This is a good example. They're going to bring Caden Lee in motion here. He's going to make a fake here. They're also going to have a fake with the running back, okay? They are going to take the boundary receiver. They're going to push him on a post. He is my first read in the progression. They're going to bring the backside receiver on this deep over route. He is my second read in the progression, and I would be willing to bet that Caden is going to end up here in the flat, and somebody else, unless it's a max blitz, is going to end up here, and those become his check downs. So you end up layering the field with the deep and intermediate and the check down. All right, so here as the play starts, timing is good. There it is. Okay, again, he's finding the safety. Okay, safety's turning. He's getting depth to the middle of the field. The post is now off the page, so he's going to set his feet. He gets to the top of his drop, hitch up, find him right now. Easy, accurate ball. Okay, he has a tendency to get long in the top of his drop. You can see how that back foot is really deep right there. When you separate that much and you get that long in the pocket, and listen, a lot of great quarterbacks do it, but when you get that long and there's that much separation between your front 2 feet, you have to really gather and see how he resets and his feet come together. Kind of requires another step before he can really get his foot in the ground and drive the football. I'm curious to know if they worked in the offseason of trying to shorten up the top of the drop to get the second foot in the ground faster and get him in that hitch step throw a little bit quicker. But again, it's another good read. It's another good ball. Explosive play. Okay. A few plays later, I think 2 plays later actually, down in the red zone right here. Okay. They are going to work a pop pass. I'm pretty sure Jackson Dart took this to New York. He scored on it the other night in the preseason. And this is the exact same thing right here. They're just going to use a little motion right here, which they don't always use, but they're going to fake this toss action to the running back. It's part of their quarterback read game. Tight end is going to release like he's about to go block and seal the linebacker, try to get the safety influence with the eyes and the action from the quarterback, showing the toss. So they're pushing a receiver wide to hold this corner, try to draw the safety. He's wide. Get everything to expand, and what you want is the tight end to then fold right back behind. They protect it on the other side with this little kind of slot fade by Caden Lee and a hitch on the outside. That should occupy this safety. So here, run it back all the way to the beginning. Here's the action. Toss, eyes. Now, at this point, that's his first read. Safety is outside leverage, closing. Linebacker is underneath. He has to layer this football. It has to be the right ball. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the end zone copy of this clip so that you can see.
The umpire has great coverage on this play.
Oh, absolutely. They get in my way so much, it's not even funny. But right there, toss, boom, right there. So he knows he's got to layer this football, and he waits and absolutely just puts it over the linebacker, but he takes it away from the safety. He knows where it's got to go. He kind of hesitates right there and then just layers it right over. And if I go back to the wide angle, you can really see how well he just he drops it in there without it being a too soft of a ball. It's got enough zip on it where nobody else really has a chance to come make a play. That is a really well-placed ball. That, again, that is a kid that understands the scheme, understands what he's seeing defensively, but also really has a good touch of where he wants to go with the football. All right, now let's talk the Georgia game, because this is the one that's got everybody fired up about the kid. I think that the way the coaches handled him on this drive says a lot. Now, I think you watch this game in general, and they came in with the mindset of we have to win this game, and we're going to do whatever the hell it takes to win this football game. But when he comes in the game, they don't do a thing to try and call the game any differently. They stayed aggressive. They were not about to let the fact that Austin Simmons was in the game prevent them from running their offense. So they come out here. I mean, you're 1st and 10, first play in right here. Let's give him a boot. Okay,
and just
give him something.
Real
easy.
Quick timeout. At this point, if I recall correctly in this game, Georgia had a lead, right?
I believe so. Didn't they? Did they score on the first drive, or they scored after the Dart injury?
Pete, I'm getting old. It seems like Georgia had a lead. Jackson got hurt. There was a feeling in the stadium, if I recall correctly, of like almost impending doom here.
There was a feeling on my couch of a similar feeling. I can tell you that.
I was not at your couch, but I was in the stadium. So
well, you're welcome anytime, Neil.
Thank you, Pete.
So, so they're going to give him something easy. They're going to give him a boot. Okay, so they're going to sell the run action this way. They're going to take this outside receiver, and I honestly can't tell you. I can't tell if he's trying to run what's known as a crash, where he's going to push and get back to the corner. Some people call it a crash, some people call it a China, or if he's trying to run a comeback. I really can't tell, which is part of the problem here. They're going to get Watkins in the flat here. You got the crossing route coming here. Caden is going to spray and then work vertical right there. Okay. So again, nice, easy throw. Nice job managing the play fake. He gets depth right there. His first read, he wants to go here with the ball. Okay. It's covered. Chaz Chambliss takes it, so he's looking to the outside now. Okay. Again, you kind of get this stutter step on the outside from the receiver right there, and I think it's supposed to be a comeback. He comes back downhill right there. Well thrown ball to the sideline. Nobody's going to catch this but his guy. It would have to be phenomenal coverage for a DB to make a play on it. Maybe you watch it from the end zone and you're like, man, he put that thing close to the sideline right here. But from a timing standpoint, again, from a progression standpoint, and from the coaches trusting the quarterback, hey, we're going to give him something manageable. We're going to give him an easy read, but we're not going to just ease this kid into the game. We're going to let him go make a play right away. It shows you, I think, the kind of confidence that they have in him.
For sure. Absolutely.
Come back here, end zone copy. Come back to the next play. Now they're going to get into the RPO game, okay? They're going to take Watkins here. They're going to motion him out. They're giving him coverage indicators. When they use these simple little motions, the whole purpose of that right there is to try and get the coverage to trigger, okay? Is it going to be man coverage where somebody's going to go and run with him? Are you going to get the coverage if there's a rotation? Are they going to go ahead and present themselves? Or are you just going to widen him out, get a nice, easy cushion for your inside route right here? So what they do is they give him hitches to the boundary, if I remember correctly, and then it's going to end up being 2 slant routes to the field. Okay, so he's going to identify where's the pressure coming from, where's my soft coverage. He sees some rotation there. Earlier we watched them blitz from the pressure or from the edge, and the safety came down to be that skiff player, that seam curl flat. Here he's coming down to buzz, which means he's replacing the linebacker. So he's becoming the backer. He is that seam curl player now, okay? He has numbers to the weak side. He easily could have taken the slant down here, and I guarantee it's something that they talked about on the sidelines, that if he comes backside right here and takes Caden Lee, okay, it's an easy chain mover and potentially an explosive play. Same thing if he works out here to Watkins. Now, you watch this, and the guy that's covered catches the ball, and that's simply because it's tipped. I went back and watched it from multiple copies. He is trying to push the ball outside. That is the cushion. That is where this ball has to go. It gets tipped, and they get a little bit lucky, and it ends up going right to the tight end. Okay,
I remember that now. Yep.
So little grace from the football gods right there. I'm willing to bet that when they watch this on film the next day, the conversation they had with him was, hey, you see them rotating to the boundary, but their pressure's coming from the field. Come back to the field with the throw. And they do come back to that same concept again with him. This is a couple of plays later. They're going to just window dress it, but get to essentially
this is a third and 12.
This is a 3rd and 12. Okay?
Yep.
So they're going to get to essentially a switch hitch on the backside. And listen, my money says they're playing for 4th down right here. And we see that because they go for 4th on the next, the next play, right? But he doesn't call something to make him sit in the pocket, progress for a 3rd down throw to get a 1st down. He gives him, again, something easy. So there's the motion right there. He sees what's happening coverage-wise. Now he comes backside, takes the outside receiver, which is where it has to go. This ball gets on Watkins in a hurry. He's damn near surprised by it. Has to catch it 3 times. But it's a great catch and is able now gets them into a 4th and 1 situation. So again,
that's not bad coverage by Georgia right there.
No, it's not bad coverage. It is a good route, and it's great timing and great location on the ball.
Yeah.
But it's also awareness. Who a kid who hadn't come to the sidelines and talked to the coaches yet has realized that field slant, if they're gonna rotate the other way, has a chance to pop open, and it absolutely does. Okay, so now they come back, and I absolutely love this play call, and I have a little bit of question about it, but I can kind of walk you through some of the basics. Okay, one is they're going to take the outside receiver and they're going to run him off. He's playing man, get his ass out of there. Okay, what they're going to do with the other receivers is they're going to send this guy on this shallow underneath, and what they're trying to do now is draw these linebackers out of there. They're going to give you a backside dig. It gives you a little high-low on the backside. Caden Lee is going to shuffle out, and then he is going to attack vertical. If this guy chases the tight end on the shallow route, Caden, what I can't tell you if it is an option route or a designed angle route, okay? There's kind of two things that you typically see here, all right? One is the angle route where he's going to push out, nod like he's going to the flat, come back underneath, and it's a trailer concept. You got one guy already going underneath, and the second guy trails him, and the mentality is if the backer chases the crosser, you just opened up space for the trailer. It's actually something Georgia does a ton of in their offense. Kansas City Chiefs absolutely love it. It's been effective for a lot of people for a long time. The other option might be that it is an option route. So again, here's your high-low on the backside. And now as he motions out, the option route as he approaches, he can break out or he can break in based on leverage. Either way, he recognizes as soon as this player goes inside and he sees the reaction of the defense, right? There's Caden shuffles out. There goes number 8 chasing him. So he recognizes right there they're playing some type of a man or match coverage. That means he has Caden Lee one-on-one. So Caden steps up. You see he nods out. If that defender's inside, I think it's an option route. And I think Caden breaks out, first down Rebs. Okay. Instead, the defender, Caden sets him up, goes outside. Caden breaks in. The ball is in rhythm, on time, because the key to this type of stuff is, one, you got to be on the same page with your wide receiver, but the ball cannot afford to be late because the window is going to close tight. And you can see here, ball's moving. Caden's just out of his break. Ball's in rhythm. There goes the umpire giving a set and a screen, and now they're rocking and rolling and moving off of this 4th and 1, and now they're getting into the high red zone and really starting to threaten a little bit. Okay, skip forward. Couple plays later. That was I think we're 3 plays later now. Okay.
Yeah, because that was a 4th and 1.5, and this is
4th and 1.5,
7.5, if I remember right.
Yep. Now we're 3rd down, and okay, they're going to give him again. They're going to give him something simple. Okay, I think they also have a good feeling of what they're going to get from a coverage standpoint right here. Okay, they're going to just run right here what I call sticks. They're basically, you run to the first down marker, you sit down and be open. If you're pressed, you're probably going to convert it to something vertical right there if you get true man-to-man. So you can see right here, they're going to get out into a quarters look. So we are bail, reading 2. If 2 comes out, I'm going to jump him. He's getting into a deep half player, and this middle field safety that looks like he's going to be deep middle is actually going to come down and be the hole player in the inside of this Tampa 2. This corner is going to bail out. He's going to play with depth as well. Okay, so they're trying to protect the down the field shots that they know they like. All right, Simmons manages the high snap, sees the rotation, collects it, gathers himself, and listen. I showed you earlier the throw against Arkansas, right? I said he layered the football. You had the guy underneath, and he had to just take it over the top right here. I can either tell you that this is an incredible throw or it's a lot of luck, and either way, it's skillful, right? Because there's the defensive end popping out. He holds the safety just enough inside with the eyes, and the ball is thrown where it has to be thrown. If he throws this ball to Lee's inside shoulder, now shout out Caden Lee for knowing I can't work inside to that safety.
So when you say inside shoulder, you mean towards the Georgia sideline or towards the Ole Miss sideline?
Towards the middle of the field safety. Okay. Caden, as he works his route, he knows this guy's here. He knows I can't go in there. So Caden kind of expands his route just a little bit. Let me erase my drawings. So you can see as Caden starts, he kind of starts to expand. And when he sets down, he turns outside.
Yep, I see.
If this ball is thrown inside too much, you make him a factor, right? You'd love to see this ball thrown on the outside shoulder, but he probably prevented that from happening. So the ball just gets almost thrown right at Caden's head.
And if you don't put the right height on it, it's picked.
Absolutely. But the big thing is it doesn't get pushed into the hash, and it doesn't get thrown right to that guy that's zone dropping underneath. So let's see real quick if I can go. I don't remember what my end zone copy looks like here. If we can get a good look. Again, manage the chaos of the high snap. Collect yourself. Don't be rattled. And I wish it zoomed out more, but you can see, had he thrown that ball here, it's a completely different outcome. But he managed to place it inside of this dropper, but not into the middle of the field safety. So high level awareness right there by receiver and quarterback. And you know, I will say this, if you look at his first down pass to Caden Lee, you look at the 4th and 1 to Caden Lee, you look at this 3rd and 8 to Caden Lee, clearly those two have a connection, probably have had a ton of reps. He is your returner on the outside. Yeah. And he is a very capable guy that they're going to move all over this offense when he is healthy, and they're going to ask him to do a whole lot of things. I think they are talented enough that they're not going to allow people to fixate on Caden from a secondary standpoint. But when they do, if Austin is smart enough, and by all indication he is, to get to his next guy, there's a lot of obviously opportunity for success. Like we said earlier, it's as fans, we need to temper our behavior and temper our expectations, because his highs are going to be high, but when he hits the lows, don't rag on the kid, because there's going to be some growth. It's going to be that way with the offensive line. It's going to be that way with the receiving core. It's going to be that way at quarterback. But ultimately, the future certainly looks bright with this kid.
Yeah, he and Lee have a ton of chemistry together. If you go to a practice, you see it right away at the end of every, like, the stretch drills, and that they're the first people to dap each other up, and they're good friends. On top of that, they've been together for a long time. In today's college football, guys together as teammates for 3 seasons it's not a rarity,
but it's not common.
But it's not great. It's not common, exactly. All right, Pete, that was great stuff. We'll look forward to that. We'll watch Austin Simmons, his debut as the starter for Ole Miss on Saturday, again, 6:45. Make sure that I give everybody their props. 6:45 Central Time, Central Daylight Time on SEC Network. Ole Miss next week will head to Lexington, Kentucky. It'll be the SEC opener for both teams. Kentucky opens the season at home on Saturday against Toledo. They will entertain Ole Miss. I don't have to tell too many people what happened the last time Ole Miss and Kentucky got together. This game will be at Kroger Field. 3:30 Eastern Time, 2:30 Central. So we'll take a look at the Wildcats next week on Pete's Pigskin Preview. Again, we've been brought to you by RiverLand Roofing. It's riverlandroofing.com, 662-644-4297. Make sure that when you talk to them, that you tell them you heard about it on Pete's show, Pete's Pigskin Preview, MPW Digital, Neil and Chase, 24/7 Sports, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that they know that we got you there. That would be appreciated. This show is produced each and every week by Caroline McCready. It'll be in podcast form as well, wherever you listen to podcasts. But again, if you're listening for some reason and you haven't seen it on YouTube, I highly recommend that you come check it out on YouTube. I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. So for Pete Deweese, I'm Neil McCready. Until next week, this was another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview. Take care.